itself. If anybody's going to tell me the truth behind the UFO phenomena, it's the United States government. Yeah, now I was 15, so give me a little bit of credit. I wasn't the smartest, tack on the roseberry bush. So I said, let's figure out what kind of government stuff's out there. So boom, went back to the internet, started looking for documents online, and I really kind of only found one. And I had read through this document, and thought there's no way that this is real. It was a 4-page document. In the UFO field, it's been infamously known as the 1976 Iran incident. It's a very interesting case, and to summarize it, and again, this is as the US government document, or according to this website, had recollected this story. I'm reading this thing, and it talks about a UFO being seen over Tehran, and the base commander there was receiving multiple phone calls from civilians talking about an unknown object in the sky. And the government document states that after a couple phone calls, the commander goes outside with a pair of field binoculars and confirms that there is something in the distance that shouldn't be there. So he scrambles an F-4 Phantom jet to go take a look. According to the document, it got to about 24 nautical miles from the UFO, and something strange happened. His F-4 Phantom jet entirely shut down. Now again, this story is from a declassified document, or again, as I'm reading this as a 15-year-old kid, that's what this website is telling me. This is a pretty amazing story. After the second object rejoined the original one, a third UFO appeared out of the side of it. The pilot, as documented, said that this object was 1/3 the apparent size of the moon. The pilot, as documented, eventually gained control of his aircraft and returned to base. That's when he saw UFO number 4. They also tried to explain Roswell. We all know the story. A UFO allegedly crashed in 1947. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times that they released 4 different explanations. So if the CIA or whomever is doing a top secret test of aircraft X or aircraft Y, they're not going to send me blacked out documents on, the SR-71 and go, here you go, because they know what that is and it's not unidentified. So that particular skeptical response to a lot of these types of documents does not make sense. Whatever this phenomena is, it is 100% unidentified to the US military and to the US government. There are never any follow-ups that says, yeah, well, private so-and-so saw this, but we know that it's actually this particular aircraft or this particular incident or so on. You don't see that. These documents prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that that unidentified UFO phenomena is absolutely real. But the problem with the US Air Force fact sheet is there's kind of not really a fact on it. That when you actually take a little bit of time and start filing FOIAs, and again, as I'm growing up doing this, there weren't hundreds of documents that shouldn't have exist. There were thousands that I were finding that just shouldn't be there. So when you have a phenomena that's supposedly easily explainable, why did these thousands of documents actually exist? One of my first targets was Peterson Air Force Base at Space Command. Obviously, this whole weekend is devoted to UFOs in space. So I figured, would Peterson Air Force Base and Space Command actually have UFO documents? Well, according to the same agency, the United States Air Force, there shouldn't be any, right? Because in 1969, they stopped their interest in the phenomena. They had already figured out that it was easily explainable, nothing to see here, keep moving. The problem was Space Command was collecting UFO reports. In fact, in 1996, when I filed this request, these were all UFO sightings from 1995 and 1996. The whole point with this was the fact that they were collecting the information. Why were they collecting information on something that was easily explainable? One of the logs here talk about Griffiths Air Force Base in New York. After years of fighting, I was able to get, and so were many other researchers, I'm not trying to take credit, but they did release that document that the judge read. To this day, whatever is under that black remains top secret. This is the current version. So based on today's security standards, this is as much information that they will release. Every page pretty much looks like this, if not with more blacked out. You can request what's called a mandatory declassification review. And what that means is this was originally released in the late 80s. In the late 80s, what is classified then is not necessarily classified in 2016. So under the FOIA, you can request this MDR for them to take the blacked out document, go to the original one, re-review everything, and then black out what you need. Because I do want to at least deal with, again, this weekend's theme, which is the space agencies, and end with NASA. Because NASA, in addition to the NSA and the CIA and the DIA and the FBI and all these other government agencies that I tackled, I thought, well, maybe they have UFO material as well. And I wanted to get into, but there's no way timing-wise, I wanted to get into some of those videos and photographs that circulate on the internet of things that are seen in space, and sometimes maybe it's the space station cameras and they cut off when something mysterious goes on. There's a lot of that out there, and I recommend that you guys take a look at that. Some of it I think is explainable. A lot of it may be explainable, but I think that there's some cases there that really just defy explanation. So I think you definitely take some time and research some of those videos. But what I do want to deal with is the actual documentation that NASA will give you. And that is in the form of what they would call Ask an Astronomer. And when I filed my FOIA request, the only thing that came up was a response that one of the NASA personnel did for a blog that NASA called Ask an Astronomer. And this was just that. You can ask one of like the top, most brilliant minds inside NASA a question. Whatever question you had about astronomy, astrobiology, whatever it might be. This particular question was submitted: have aliens visited Earth? Are UFOs real? So that came up under my FOIA request. Here's their answer: no. You could have just put a period there and called it a day, but they went on. There is no evidence of visits for intelligent aliens to Earth, either now or in the past. This is not my typo. I did verify this. I just put it in there because the government makes mistakes all the time. So when skeptics say, well, there's a typo in it, then it has to be a hoax. This proves that that is not a valid claim. The government is not perfect despite popular belief. There are many claims concerning UFOs and aliens, but no evidence to support these claims. The photos that are posted on the internet are mostly fakes, and no one has ever produced an artifact or any other tangible scientific evidence of UFOs or aliens. One of the strongest cases against the reality of these claims is that the group of people who spend the most time observing the sky are amateur astronomers, and they don't report UFO sightings. If there were any evidence of aliens, astrobiologists would be among to hail such a discovery and analyze the data. However, there is no evidence that withstands scientific investigation. If you're still interested, you can use the search engine to find posted answers to specific questions about aliens and UFOs. That was NASA's official response. I used their search engine. I typed in UFOs and aliens, and nothing really came up. So what they were talking about, I'm not really sure. But let me go through a couple slides to show you that NASA's explanation is just as silly as pretty much every other government agency. One of the people that you've probably heard of, Edmund Halley, way back in March of 1676, he saw a UFO. He described it as a, quote, vast body apparently bigger than the moon. He estimated it to be about 40 miles above him.